much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I am Heena Gambhir. Do you know there are around 17 lakh advocates registered in the country, and out of these, only 15% are women? Do you know in various high courts across India, only 11.8% judges are women? Do you know that there have been only 11 female judges out of 256 Supreme Court judges in the past 71 years in the country, which is around 4.2%. Now, this at a time when around 50% of India's population is women. What's behind gender imbalance in judiciary? Deeply ingrained patriarchy in our society. Women often facing hostile environment within the courtrooms. Harassment, lack of respect from members of the bar and bench. A good number of women law graduates are compelled to give up their professional ambitions due to the expectations of society. Now, these issues, viewers, have been raised by none other than the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, as he called for greater representation of women in Indian judiciary. And to discuss this, I'm joined by India's top legal mind, Mukul Rohatgi, who's a senior advocate, former Attorney General of India. Mr. Rohatgi, thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Good to have you on the show today. Some very important points have been raised by the Chief Justice of India. In your opinion, why are there so few women as far as Indian judiciary is concerned? What's behind this gender imbalance?
Look, as I see, this is a hangover of a patriarchal society which has ruled the roost for the last more than a couple of 100 years. Because of that, the traditional system in society was that a woman would stay in a house, look after the house, look after the children, do the household chores, and that's how it was. Even the education levels were different between men and women. A man would conduct business, so he would know what the problems of business are or otherwise, and he would then seek out to remedy the problem. So the remedy was also by males who were lawyers, doctors, architects, etc. So that's how the patriarchal society worked. But after independence, slowly and gradually, the gender imbalance has been reducing steadily, and there has been rapid progress in removing the inequalities. Say in the last about 25 odd years, I can tell you that when I joined the profession more than 40 years ago, the gender imbalance was much larger than it is today. When I go to the High Court and the Supreme Court, but more in the High Court, it's very heartwarming to see that there are a large number of young girls and women who are going about in the profession. There is no doubt that they have a much harder role than a male, because a male goes away to his office and work, leaving his wife or a woman in the house to double up, to go and work in the profession also, look after the house also, look after the children also. I have no doubt that a woman carries a much larger load, and rather silently, if I may say so, without cribbing, bearing it in a smiling way. And I would, take off my hat, salute them, the way they are working in these circumstances. And now let me tell you my own experience in the last about 20, 30 years. I've had a lot of juniors who have come and joined my chamber and have risen in various positions, including being judges in the high courts and all that. Even today, the majority of my juniors, say in the last 10, 15 years or 20 years, have been girls and young women. I find them very hardworking, very honest and efficient and caring. So I would bat for them. I would bat, and I fully endorse what the Chief Justice of India said. There is no reason why the gender imbalance should continue. And also, let me tell you, madam, my own experience has been that women as judges, by and large, are more rounded. They have stronger common sense. They also have some more sympathy, etc., etc. They make excellent judges. I have seen excellent women judges in my own High Court, namely the Delhi High Court. And I'm talking about lady judges in the 1980s. Some of them were superb in our High Court. This is not to denigrate male judges.
Okay.
But I would say that they make excellent judges. And mind you, madam, and I'm saying it clearly, no person who's appointed a judge knows all the laws. Nobody can claim to know everything. Even I can't claim after 40 years of being in the profession that I know everything. A judge also learns on the job. He learns because both sides will teach him what the law is on their side and the other side.
Absolutely.
And the judge will find a common path and find who is right, who's wrong. That's not a very difficult thing because, both sides will tell him. So a woman who may not have had such a good practice as a lawyer of the same number of years in the profession, but if a woman is elevated, she will also learn the same way, maybe a tad more than experience or a tad more experience required as compared to a male. But I would say they make excellent judges. There should be a specific attempt by the government, by the collegium of the Supreme Court and the High Courts to push women in as much as, it's not proper to compare a woman and a man, let's say having 20 years experience to become a judge of the High Court. If you compare the experience as one and one, you will find the woman may have done, say, 200 or 500 cases, but the man may have done 5,000 cases. So you would choose a male, but not, forgetting that what is the background they've come from. So somebody having done 500 cases should be upgraded. Like you give a push to SC, ST, you give a push to backward because of their histories of backwardness and histories of years of deprivation. So you give them a push, and the push should equal.
You're talking about reservation.
I am not saying reservation, madam. I am saying
you're talking about reservation.
No, I am saying when you compare, you can
or a
give
specific criteria also. Maybe for. Okay.
I am saying you can jolly well give a reservation also, but I am only saying that when you compare a man and a woman with equal number of years of practice, do not compare it on the same basis because they come from different backgrounds. One has got more chances, one has got less chances. So you upgrade that other person and then compare. That is the problem in our system, that you blindly compare a male and a female with 20 years of practice and then say, oh, this person has done 5,000 cases with more experience. This lady has done only 100. That is not a proper comparison. So you have to be alive to this situation.
That's an interesting point.
So, madam, you have to be alive to this.
That's an interesting point, Mr. Rohatgi, you have raised. And
go ahead.
Yes. So that's a very important and an interesting point you've raised, Mr. Rohatgi. And, the Chief Justice of India also mentioned that out of the 37 women candidates that were recommended by Supreme Court Collegium for appointment as High Court judges, only 17 have been appointed so far. Why do you think there is this delay from the government side when we have people who are eligible, who can become judges in various high courts across the country, when vacancy is a reality? Why is there a delay?
So, madam, I'll answer it in two different ways. One, the delays are enormous and the system is crying out for prompt appointments. That is the first thing. At all times, about 1/3 of the vacancies in the High Court remain as such. You have broadly about 1,000, 1,200 judges of the high courts, and 300-400 vacancies are always there. So whether male or female, whoever is appointed or to be appointed, the fact is that you must fill them up. That's number one. And number two, if the recommendations of the Collegium of the Supreme Court in terms of female candidates has been approved only in less than half the number as suggested, then I think more introspection is required. First, it is necessary to see why only 17 out of 37 have been selected. Have they been selected on the basis of a criteria, as I was suggesting, which is not a proper criteria? Because if you have just compared males and females with the equal number of years or equal number of time in the profession, then the relationship is skewed. So you need to see why it has happened. If this is why it has happened, then the imbalance has to be corrected by changing the levels of eligibility so as to make them equal. That is what is important. Next, madam, I also want to tell you.
Change the level of eligibility.
Yes, because as I said, you have to give them a push. How can you forget that they require a push? They are doing double the burden of a male. They are competing with him in the courts. They are doing so much housework, you see, and the children. How can there be a balance? Now, one more thing I want to say. Because we have had a male-dominated society, in the earlier days, this was the general perception that women must not go out and all that. But today, we have women in the army. The Supreme Court has shown the way that women should get permanent commissions in the army. We have women combat pilots. They are fighter pilots. They fly Rafales. They can drive a tank. They are doctors. They are architects. Jolly well. I mean, if you ask me, a legal profession is far easier than being a combat pilot and flying a plane at 2,000 miles an hour. So if that is so, and all it requires is an experience which, as I said, the profession will teach you the experience once you become a judge. So there is no reason why there should be any gender inequality. I mean, women are 50% of the human race. So we should, you have to shock the system. Madam, you have to shock the system. The only way to shock the system is that if you have to appoint 50 people from the bar, instead of 25, appoint 35 women, 15 men for the next 5 years or 10 years, so that the imbalance, which is prevailing today, gets kind of obliterated in the next 10, 15 years. And only then we will have a true egalitarian and a proper system.
You've touched upon two important issues. One, patriarchy being a very important reason why we are seeing this gender imbalance, and second, about the appointment of women judges and what can be done to expedite the whole process. Now, there are two other issues that the Chief Justice of India had raised while he was talking about this matter. He also said that women often face hostile environment within courtrooms, harassment, lack of respect from members of the bar and bench. These are other reasons why there is this gender imbalance. What can be done to address these issues, sir?
Well, madam, actually, that also flows from the same mindset. A male-dominated mindset in the society, in the house, and in the workplace. So it actually flows from there. One should have proper, seminars. You should have this as a subject or a part of a subject to be taught in law school. That there is no way that you are superior to a female candidate. This has to be drilled into the candidate from the time that a candidate is in school or college, and that we must obliterate a male-dominated society. You have to ingrain it in children, ingrain it in college, high school, and it must be dealt with an iron hand in courts. The judges must be cognizant that if on one side is a lady and one side is a man and some kind of harassment, etc., is being noticed, it should be raised, and a congenial atmosphere should be made up. So it will come with experience, some training,
we're also joined
some
by
study, some discipline.
Okay. Okay, we're also joined by Pinky Anand, senior advocate and former ASG. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I'll come to you, Ms. Pinky Anand, in just a bit. Just one more question, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, and that is about the issue of reservation of girls in legal education. Something that, you know, the Chief Justice of India had spoken about earlier as well. How crucial do you think this is going to be for correcting this gender imbalance?
So, madam, it's a good idea. 10 minutes ago, I said some similar things to which you responded as a reservation. I said give them a push. They require it because they are doing great work and they're carrying double the burden. So you must have some kind of reservation, and giving reservation in colleges for women candidates to study law is a very good idea. So you have to have a multi-pronged attack in removing this gender bias. You may start it in college with a reservation. You may start it in the profession, in subordinate judiciary, high court, Supreme Court, everywhere. So you have to do it for the next 10, 20 years till you get out of this imbalance.
Okay. And last one question before we let you go. Now, with CJI himself raising these concerns, do you think change will finally be on its way? Does it bring some hope?
Madam, the change suggested by the Chief Justice are extremely welcome steps. I hope that the persons who are concerned have listened to this or are listening to this clarion call, namely the government, other members of the Collegium of the Supreme Court, members of the Collegium of the High Courts. If everybody listens to it, I have no doubt that something will come out of it. And I would suggest, madam, this is a great program that you have, this program you have done and the theme that you have chosen. The media can also play a very constructive role in this behalf. If you keep having these kind of seminars or debates and, you know, throwing these questions at lawyers or paralegal or say the teaching staff in colleges. So the same way you should have in a teaching staff in a law college, you should have a reservation for women. They are good teachers also. So everywhere it's a multi-pronged thing which must be done. I would suggest that the Chief Justice of India should have a conclave. We'd have some lawyers, somebody from the government, some judges, some teachers, some academics, everybody coming together to brainstorm and decide, look, these are 4 or 5 ways that we can have a 5-pronged attack. I think that will result in something better in our lifetimes.
Absolutely. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, thank you very much
thank you, madam,
for such kind words, and thank you very much for joining us here on... Yes, I know that, but thank you very much for taking out time for us for Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening.
I leave the baton.
We have Ms. Pinky Anand, senior advocate and...
So I said I leave the baton to a very dear colleague of mine who will carry on the clarion call which I wanted to give. She'll definitely carry on. All the best.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
thank you.
bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rohatgi. Pleasure to have you on the show today. Ms. Pinky Anand, like Mr. Rohatgi has also mentioned that you're going to take it forward from here. You're among those few women who are part of the Indian judiciary. Firstly, I want to ask you, why are there so few women as far as India's judiciary is concerned?
Honestly, Heena, I think I'll take the conversation a little from where the former Attorney General had left the clarion call to me, and to say this, that indeed I was with the Attorney General, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, earlier, and then with Mr. K.K. Venugopal. And while I look back on the profession and you talk about it having less representation, no doubt to some extent and a major extent it has been true. But indeed, the reasons are quite obvious, I think. If you look back and why not women. Law by itself is a tough profession. It demands a lot out of you in terms of both time, energies, commitments, perseverance, and also, of course, peer pressure that you cannot undertake this arduous task of climbing ahead. It's a very long-drawn profession. You don't rise overnight. You really have to work and struggle for a number of years. Financially also, it has its own impediments in the earlier stage of your career. And then, of course, if you're a woman, you have some of the other gender issues that come along with the calling, so to say. So you are not given enough benefits, you're not given enough opportunities. People quite kind of question your competence. So, I was remembering when Justice Leela Seth had joined the profession, she was one of the first pioneers as far as the Chief Justice of a High Court is concerned. And when she went to join the barrister, apparently she was told that, why do you want to do this? She said, well, I want to work in law. And she was a barrister, by the way. And then she was asked, why don't you get married? She said, I am married. And then they said, why don't you have children? She said, I do have children. So at the end of it, they realized that, you are serious. So for people to take you seriously, I think that's the majority of the battle. And then to, of course, survive it amongst this vast field, and very academic at the same time, a field which involves all sorts of struggles from all across the walks of life. Do remember that when you are a lawyer, you're dealing with a variety of factors. You're dealing with clients, you're dealing with junior lawyers, you're dealing with the judges, and you're dealing with the variety of layers of judges. So in that situation, I guess, and also I think women did get a bit scared of continuing with the profession, finding a saner or safer profession. So in all manners, there has been this entire situation. But of course, I'm sure you will come to that times are changing tremendously quickly. And we are looking forward to another tomorrow with the UN International Women's Day for Lawyers and Judges, which has been so declared, and these great events that are coming into being at the forthcoming. And again, I must, at this point, definitely address the fact that you have not only the question of women in law and judiciary, but you also have a very major factor which has come out today, the recent elections. Women voters who played a very dominant role in the elections and have actually exceeded males in a number of areas and constituencies. I think that it also is a very heartening factor into what has been developing.
So you believe that the mindset is changing? Because Mr. Mukul Rohatgi told us that, one of the reasons behind this gender imbalance in Indian judiciary is hangover of a patriarchal society. The Chief Justice of India also said that, one reason is deeply ingrained patriarchy in our society. So both touched upon the issue of patriarchy. Do you see that change in mindset taking place? Maybe that's the reason why we are now going to move up from 11.2% judges, women judges in the high courts in India, from about 19% women judges if the recommendation of the Supreme Court is cleared by the centre.
No doubt. I mean, what the Chief Justice of India has said and what the Attorney General also mentioned in terms of the patriarchal setup, definitely. Patriarchal setup, the mindset which goes behind it, the prejudices that prevail among society, the stereotyping of women. Incidentally, patriarchy and power is possibly all in the same part. You have patriarchy which determines that one particular gender takes the step forward or dominates over the other, and that situation continues till that system is changed by a conscious decision of well-meaning superiors, leaders of society, people who lay down the top-down kind of principle to say, this must change. So therefore, the change comes from within as much as from the top. So both ways, I think the top part is far more important, because when, for example, the Chief Justice of India appoints 3 out of 9 judges in the last function that was held, that changed the whole dimensions. You only had 11 judges out of 256 judges, or rather 8 out of 256 before the 11 were appointed, so to say. Currently, we have 4 women judges in the country, which we've never had. And we also have in the offing the Chief Justice of India being Justice Nagaratna sometime, of course, later down. But amazing. I mean, look at the kind of aspirations that lends down society. So I think the kind of input that has been put in by the current Chief Justice, who does think that he is, a humble husband, a humble father, and a humble brother to his various family members, which he's expressed. And indeed, it is delightful. But it is not only words. You can't do things only by words. You do have to do actions. And that is what I think he has done. The signal of 3 judges appointment out of 9, which is about 1/3. And let's not go by percentages. It's a signal it sends down. We were there for the ceremonies, and I remember that, the kind of joy that it gave you to feel, look, this is a fair representation. You need, and then he went on to say there should be more. There should be 50% reservation. He might have said that in a slightly lighter moment, but I think he was serious on the content. So change the mindset. Allow women to have equal representation or more than equal representation. In fact, Justice Nageshwar Rao, at a function that I was attending, I remember said this, and it was indeed heartening. It doesn't matter what only the percentages are. They are only indicative of some factors. The point is, you must be able to have the right to choose a particular profession. You must have the right to make it to the top. And when Justice Nagaratna takes that seat, believe me, and not only takes the seat, the fact that she's there for taking the seat in future itself sends down tremors, if I might use that word, in a favorable manner, down the ranks to say, look, if a woman can make it as the Chief Justice of India, so can we. And if you can do that, aspiration, passion, perseverance, each of these features is something that lends itself to your persona. So any woman who's going in for the profession would either like to make it at the top of the profession as legal profession stands, or at the top of the judicial field. And I must also add, I think the manner in which the Chief Justice has been talking about legal education and the possibility of having more judges, I think that itself is another immense factor, because I think, honestly speaking, you do need to have equality in that sense and diversity amongst the judicial profession. In any case, we need to encourage good people to be there in the judicial field more and more, and this is the pattern in which everybody has been proceeding. So when you talk about the Chief Justice of India saying, let there be more women judges, let there be more women education, let there be women in panels, reservation. And by the way, when we talk about reservation, sometimes it's a questionable situation. Do you want reservation as an inferior sex? But reservation is a tool to put you up to that task so that you come up to level. You have a level playing field. And from there, you obviously take it forward. So if it means reservation in legal education, and though I must add a caveat here.
Ms. Pinky Anand, can reservation continue forever?
The CLAT, law exams, you have 50%. Never. I don't think reservation should ever continue forever.
My point is, can this reservation continue forever?
It is only a step up in the right direction. As I said, what happens and what should happen are two different things. But the intent of reservation, yes.
I was trying to understand, wherever we have reservation, wherever reservation started after India got independence, it's still continuing. We still have not reached that level that, we are ready to do away with reservation. It is still required. So that's what I'm trying to understand from you. Do we still need reservation when we are talking about gender equality?
Well, Heena, it's a, take one, take two kind of position. The point is, you do need several inputs into getting to that stage of gender equality and to giving a woman a rightful place in the society of which she's an equal citizen. If you can't achieve it by other means, and the other steps are possibly too delayed or too protracted, the only possible method is let me put it another way, call it coercive, call it something which is an adamant kind of step, a command, let us say. So the only manner in which you can command is by having a reservation as a tool. And much as one used to have an initial resistance to this kind of concept, I must say that I don't find it's take panchayat representation. It is only after the constitutional amendment came in 1992 that you ultimately had the representation of women at 30%. if you look at the parliament figures correspondingly, you find that hasn't been achieved, and it is much lower, about 14% and 11% respectively, as the case may be. So indeed, in terms of numbers, and that is of course not necessarily always true of quality, the only manner of achieving it is if you provide the level playing field, and the intent of reservation is once you get there, then pull back and allow people to contest from the level playing field upwards. If it doesn't happen, I don't want to go into the history of others, but as far as the issue of women's reservation is concerned, definitely at the level of judicial inputs, as in women judicial officers, as much as law again is, by the way, an independent profession. Now, how are you going to actually have any kind of reservation? So the only place that you would have reservation would be, for example, at a level of the judicial level for women. And the reason you need to have that, incidentally, and while we talk, I have in fact mentioned this in an earlier article also, you basically have a position of entry-level problems for women in judicial field. So you have 7 years continuous practice and the age bracket of 35 to 45. Now, indeed, because of a woman's obligations, family obligations, getting married, there will be a break in continuous practice, as much as the age issue itself can become a barrier. So you do need to consider the features that need to be offset. So reservation is one of the methods, and indeed the way we are doing with the Chief Justice and the Collegium, indeed, who we commend very highly, and people like all the peers that we have who are working very hard at this effort, I am sure. And the other part is, incidentally, without reservation, the minute you have a higher representation on the field, you will find that transforming. It has a cascading effect. And the cascading effect is something that goes down society. One, because it sends out signals or tremors to say you need to appoint more, we can have more appointments, and others is to go for the aspirations of those women who felt, what is the point of my doing law?
Absolutely.
I can't become the Chief Justice of India. Well, now you have a situation, say Chief Justice Nagaratna will become the Chief Justice, so can I. At least you have that aspiration. You may not be able to become that. Maybe you can only achieve up to a certain level, but aspiration is a very important part of human capacities and indeed fulfilling the potentials.
Absolutely. And now, as you're telling us that, signals are coming, that there is a need to correct this gender imbalance that exists. So that's like a welcome sign. Thank you very much, Ms. Pinky Anand. Appreciate you speaking with us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening. With this, we will slip into a very, very short break, but there's lots lined up for you on the other side as well. Stay with us.